Alright. I have a feeling that just fighting guards is not going to give us, like, cutscenes that constantly interrupt things. So I can, like, finally start talking, doing the fucking rant. Because chat was talking about the No Kings protests, and, like, I do have a take on it, and I want to share my take. I think I deserve to be allowed to share my take. But the game was like, no, we want to give you peak storytelling and peak voice acting. Fuck you if you want to make an Ice Rider video. I mean, more accurately, I just didn't want to fucking stop. I didn't want to not listen to it, because it's so good, right? Oh my god, the double dodge. But, yeah, so No Kings is a protest movement, mostly liberal-led, liberal-leaning, specifically revolving around, the rapid and alarming escalation of violence from the second Trump administration. And I think it was this weekend there was the second instance of it, because it happened earlier this year. It happened in the summer, and then they had another one in the autumn. And I do share a lot of criticisms that those on the left have, where, like, a lot of it does seem to sort of come from a flawed understanding that, like, what's wrong with politics begins and ends at the Trump administration, or at the very least, like, begins and ends with the Republican Party. Neither of which I would say are, you know, an accurate understanding of the flaws within the United States government system. And a lot of the sort of signage is, like, very, I hate using the fucking term, like, keyboard warrior, but it does feel like that I'm posting memes on Facebook, and that is affecting change in the world. Like, there's also the weird, like, semi-homophobic, Trump and Putin, Trump and Elon, they're all having gay sex with each other idea, which I find very, like, eye-rolly and obnoxious. Can't reach you. We can just fucking beat you up. That being said, I also feel like, obviously, like, a protest is not going to fix every single problem in, I mean, not even just the world, the country, right? Oh, goddamn, Mustard Bonanza, no! But there is a bit of, like, there's sort of the idea of condemning every, like, movement or attempt at, like, doing anything, while also simultaneously not really doing anything yourself. And I do think that, like, you know, as someone who is, I'm not entirely, but, like, definitely somewhat black-pilled when it comes to, like, we're just kind of cooked, right, in a lot of ways. Like, I do think that there is an unfortunate, there's a part of me that's like, a lot of this shit is inevitable. Like, I'm gonna end up in a ditch somewhere, a mass grave by the government, and it's only a matter of time, right? But I also think, like, if you are not, like, doing something, and it doesn't have to be, like, these kind of performative, protesty situation, like, movements or whatnot, but if you're not doing anything, it's kind of like, what place do you have necessarily to criticize, like, the specific methodology, or the sort of, like, we can always uncook, there are always ways out. I mean, like, yes and no. Yes and no. Like, it's also just worth acknowledging, right? That, like, and this is something that I see, like, a lot of white queer folks, which I myself am in that category of, like, a white queer person, or otherwise marginalized white people. The failure of acknowledging, like, the idea, oh, it can't get X bad, whereas, like, for black and brown people, it has been that bad for a while, right? I forget who it was. Someone was describing it as, like, so many people who have been living in privilege, like marginalized people who've been living in relative privilege, are worrying about the end of the world, while black and brown people have been living in a post-apocalypse their entire lives. And it's like, yeah, that is a, you know, that's a, not to, you know, I'm not trying to encourage any amount of, like, persecution, like, power scaling or whatever, like, oh, you know, one group is more or less persecuted than the other. But it is also worth acknowledging that, like, the ways in which we're marginalized and the ways in which we are privileged do often, like, overlap and interact with each other in a way that can provide blind spots. Words mean little when there's no force behind them. I mean, yeah, you can say words mean little when there's no force behind them. And that is, like, a valid way of looking at and reading the protest movements, but that's also a valid way of looking at and reading the, like, just saying online, like, hey, here's, you know, here's my video essay on, like, the theory behind XYZ axis of marginalization, right? Like, again, I'm not saying that the people going to these marches are, like, changing the world and ending homophobia forever, and, like, the Trump administration is all gonna retire in shame and then go to jail. But, like, by bringing sort of, like, mass public attention to these issues, they're doing fucking something. It's sort of like, when I was talking about the, oh, what was it? The Discord, was it Nepal where they had, like, the Discord revolution? And they called themselves, like, the Gen Z revolution, and I was like, on the one hand, like, I do think that's kind of like a name that, like, sort of provides easy, like, mocking counterpoints to the opposition. But on the other hand, who the fuck am I to, like, say, oh, you're doing this wrong, to someone who's, like, actually fucking doing something? Like, I'm just in here playing video games and, like, occasionally going on, like, semi-political rants. It's just one protest at a time. Every protest matters. Yeah, like, someone said the French Revolution started with just words. And, like, I don't think that we're gonna... I don't think that, like, the No Kings is, like, the prelude to a mass uprising that starts with fucking, like, taking all these people who've been oppressing us and guillotining them in the square or whatever. But it's also just, like, it's an indication of where the general sentiments in this country are at. Life's Anthem is, like, the lamest fucking ability. It's 15 HP or something stupid like that. We can probably Baba Yaga this last guy, can't we? Oh my god, I have to slasher. It's fine, this is the final battle. I'm not fucking hoarding slashers. Protesters still action. Everyone can get in on it easily. I haven't gotten to too many protests in recent days because I've been looking for jobs, so who am I to judge? I mean, like, so I don't want to give the impression that, like, you have to... Oh my god, he's such a fucking dodge tank. I don't want to give the impression that I am of the belief that, like, you have to go out and, like, physically protest or do something to be valid. Especially as someone whose disability often gets in the way of, like, more direct action. It is, like, kind of ableist to assert that, like, you do have to do these physical things. There are plenty of other ways in which, like, you can affect change, right? Oh shit, they're doing the summoning. And, like, there are definitely, like, criticisms to be had of, in particular, the organization. Like, the sort of leadership behind No Kings. And some of the concessions that they have made in terms of, like, the routing of the march being, like, basically what the police wanted, and so it was in many ways, like, less publicly viewable this time around than last time. Although even then, that comes with the asterisks of, like, from my understanding, a big part of why the leadership made that concession is last time there was a ton of violence, like police brutality against the protesters, and they're just trying to avoid that, out of concern for the people protesting. And, like, that is a valid concern to have, even if there is sort of then, you know, weighing the tactics of, like, the optics of police brutalizing people in, like, frog costumes and shit, and, like, how bad that makes them look and how much that wakes people up to them being just a violent arm of the state and oppression. Like, there's all these different angles and facets of the stuff, right? But, like, I'm not saying, and I don't want to misconstrue my point, and I'm not trying to say that, like, one, you need to be out there doing, like, this hyper-specific form of contribution in order to be taken seriously. There's tons of different ways in which one can, you know, help with forming the world that we want, right? And I think it's important to meet people where they're at and accept the help that people can give. But I also think, and I think that there's plenty of criticisms to be made, but I think that taking such a, you know, large and popular movement and treating it like it's without any value, and like it is the punching bag, right? It is the joke. I think that I think that that's misguided, even if I can understand where the sentiment comes from. I'm also not trying to rag on anyone who's like just making the no kings like jokes or whatever, because I do understand where the attitude comes from, right? And I do myself have criticisms of, in particular, the summer one. From my understanding, as the violence, the government-sanctioned violence has ramped up, people are taking this shit more seriously, although for others, it's still, you know, not necessarily concerned. There's the idea of, like, well, how bad can it be? I don't know. There's something in human condition where the limits of our imagination are also, oftentimes very close to experiences we have had, which is why so many people in privileged positions have trouble grappling with just how bad things can potentially get. The alternative is full-blown street warfare. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I also, like, am very cognizant of the fact that I'm speaking on a platform owned by Google, right? Like, I think that, like, how do I want to phrase this? Like, I don't want to say anything that could be construed as calling for violence, because, it's one of those things where, like, it's easier to tell when violence was necessary in retrospect than in the moment. And I'm also just like, you know, for the privilege that I'm afforded, I am still a trans person living in the United States, who's, like, disclosed certain parts of my identity to the giant corporation that is in charge of my income. Like, just a thing that I gotta be, like, 100% about is I don't want to fucking go to jail, right? Or if I do, I want it to be, like, for something worth it. Because, you know, legality does not, like, legality and ethics are not the same thing. But they are also, tangible realities, right? Like, I don't want to go to jail for something I said in a YouTube video. There's definitely causes I'm willing to go to jail for. There's causes I'm willing to die for. But what I talk about in a YouTube video is not one of them. And hopefully that's something that, like, is at least understandable, right? I don't know. Hopefully some amount of these thoughts make some amount of sense. Yeah, that's the take. That's the take.